Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of You Can Exhale Now. Today, my guest is Sophie Gray, who is the founder of Dive Thru, a guided journaling app that helps you dive through what you go through. And they work with mental health professionals to create guided journaling exercises that help you take control of your mental well being. Sophie, I am so excited about this conversation and welcome to the show.
Welcome to You Can Exhale Now, a mindful living podcast for the modern pace, hosted by Lesia Liu. This podcast is for anyone who wants to get more out of life without the burnout. Because when you learn to take proper care of yourself, you have more energy, a more positive outlook, and more gratitude for life. And because you cannot reach your goals if you're tired, overwhelmed, judgmental, angry, and feel sorry for yourself. Each episode, you will learn actionable strategies for self-care, mental health, productivity, better life-work balance, and happiness from coaches, therapists, and experts. Stop holding your breath. You can exhale now. Choose to be a more authentic version of yourself than you've been in a while.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here and chat with everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. So why don't you tell us more about Dive Thru and how it came to be?
Absolutely. So I started Dive Thru a few years back in a really unconventional way. So previously, for around 3 to 4 years, I had been working in the health and wellness space, mostly focusing on physical health. So I was focusing on exercising and eating a certain diet. So I was really swept up in that world personally and professionally. And I was really ignoring my own mental well-being. It wasn't something that was on my radar. I'd had past with trauma and different mental health illnesses that I had not addressed. So I believe firmly that you can't let those things go on for too long or they'll try to get your attention. And they did that exactly for me. So I had a panic attack on an airplane. I was flying from New York to Toronto in Canada, and then from there I was going to be going to Edmonton in my hometown. So I had a panic attack on the connecting flight, and then I ended up having to drive across the country. So I had to drive 38 hours home. And from that experience, I really realized that even though I had been physically fit, I was mentally and emotionally very unwell. And that's what's caused me to embark on this journey of self-discovery, where I really started to want to better understand myself, better understand the trauma that I had faced and work through that and truly become mentally well. So what I did through that journey was I turned to journaling, and I found this to be so impactful because I feel that a lot of people believe journaling is simply note-taking or maybe bullet journaling, but journaling can be this really great tool for diving deeply into what you're going through, and that's where journaling therapy comes in. So that's what I had turned to personally. And then over time, I had just seen such amazing results that I really realized there was something so special in journaling that I wanted to share with others. So when Dive Thru came together, I really wanted to create a tool that was accessible, easy to use, and really broke down journaling therapy and all of the wonderful things it has to offer. So Dive Thru really officially launched in November of 2019. And since then, I've just really been getting people in there, working with further mental health professionals, and seeing it come to life has just been such a beautiful journey because I'm just so passionate about journaling as a whole.
That's great. And, I can relate to this story on so many levels. And just like you, I thought that I was, physically well, physically healthy, and I did not just pay attention to red flags of my mental health, right? Until one day you just break down, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely want to highlight the importance of paying attention to your body, paying attention to red flags, signs that your body is sending to you if something is not right, and just work on it
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I so agree.
in the right timing and not waiting that it will just go away on its own, because
Mm-hmm.
the time it doesn't.
Yeah, and I feel that like our bodies and our minds are really just trying to communicate with us. And a lot of the time we think that, oh, like our thoughts are so busy, but when have we actually taken the time to listen to them and really explore what they're asking of us? And like when was the last time we stopped and asked ourselves what we needed most? And it can be as simple as that and as complex as that. And when you can really start to have that relationship with your body and with your mind to know what's going on and take care of yourself before a big blow up happens. That's such a beautiful gift to give yourself.
Absolutely. And clearly, this is one of the benefits of journaling, just putting that on a piece of paper, describing your thoughts, feelings, maybe events of the day, and like what thoughts they prompted. But what are the other benefits of journaling, especially in mental health and
Hmm.
care routine? Can you speak more about that?
Absolutely. So the best way I describe what journaling truly is, it's a tool of self-awareness and self-reflection, and the results that that leads to are so many. To me, I truly view my journaling as a way of life because it's something that I turn to first get those thoughts out on paper, get them out of your head, which can alleviate the stress or it can lead you to what you need to do next. And it can really help you have that clarity. If you've had a fight with a partner, you can first journaling about the angry feelings that you're feeling, but then also journal in a way to help you understand their perspective. So it can really help with resolving conflict. Another way to use it is maybe you have a big life decision that you're wanting to make, whether it's a career change or you're even wanting to write your vows, whatever that looks like, you can use journaling to help you do that. And there's that cathartic release, there's that clarity that comes along with it, there's the even just the creative aspects of writing. But overall, it can just be such a wonderful tool to alleviate stress, to quiet a busy mind, to improve your body image and self esteem. And mostly above all else, my favorite thing about journaling is its ability to help you gain trust within yourself as you really learn more about your thoughts, your feelings, your motivations in life, and rebuild that relationship. A lot of us often break by ignoring ourselves. So what the benefits of that trust are is truly being able to move through life with a relationship with yourself and making decisions and experiencing things from a really grounded place. And that brings such a beautiful level headedness. Even when you feel stressed and anxious, you still have that relationship with yourself, and that really spills into so many areas of your life.
Absolutely. And one thing I really like about journaling is that I get this feeling of thoughts like almost coming out of my head, right? I imagine
Mhm.
thoughts and they're busy and they're like talking everyone at the same time. And then as I get them on the paper, they almost just you like they almost just wanted to be heard, right? And then they quiet down, or maybe they leave my brain altogether. Do you have any of those experiences?
Absolutely, because like you mentioned, sometimes all you need to is actually listen to yourself, and I think that's the biggest kind of misconception, in particular, again with your busy mind or anxiety. Because as much as we may know that we're feeling anxious, or we may know that we have a lot of thoughts floating around, when have we actually like thought about them, like actively chosen to focus on the anxiety or actively chosen to listen to what these thoughts are trying to communicate with you instead of just trying to shove them down? So journaling is this great tool that all you can do sometimes and all that you need is just the recognition that you're feeling a certain way or that you have a certain thought floating around. And journaling can be as simple as once you write it down, that's all you needed. Or there can be the next steps where then you truly dive in and dive through whatever the topic is that was coming up for you to find a resolution in further steps. But sometimes the resolution can simply come from getting those thoughts and that anxious feeling or those feelings out of your mind and your body and written somewhere so you can truly see them for what they are.
Great, I see. And there are a lot of different styles and types of journaling, right? There's something just as simple as bullet journaling, maybe it's daily journaling or like deep thought journaling. And then there's a lot of different advice on maybe you need to meditate on one specific sentence or write down your feelings about a particular event, or maybe you just sit and for 10 minutes you write down everything that goes through your mind. There are a lot of different tips and advices and styles, obviously, that work differently for different people. But have you found a type or a style of journaling that you find particularly effective?
Yeah. So, what Dive Thru is, and where I really started with journaling, is journaling therapy. So, again, this is the therapeutic application of journaling, reflective writing, that's used by therapists, has been widely studied, and this application of journaling really takes what I think journaling is to the next step, where it can be, again, really reflective. You can maybe journal about a certain prompt, as we have in the app, or maybe you can write yourself a letter or write someone else a letter that you'll never actually send. So within journaling therapy, there's different ways to prompt whatever you're writing. But as a whole, it's a practice that will really help you be more directive with what you're wanting to journal about. So rather than just maybe dumping your day and writing it down and journaling about your anger, there's this therapeutic next step that's inviting you or asks you, but like, what is that anger about? What is this meant to teach you? And there's that element of reflection that can lead to a solution that might often be needed. So in terms of journaling therapy, within that, I really love to use certain prompts. So like finish the sentence of like, I'm feeling ... filling that out. Or how am I doing today? So answering a question, or send a letter to yourself in appreciation, or look at a picture from a favorite time of yours and write down what comes up when you look at it. So my favorite, is rooted in journaling therapy, and then really directive and clear prompts that can help me jumpstart my journaling session.
I see. And you talk a lot about just self-reflection and self-awareness. So that's kind of another benefit of journaling. But how do you suggest people uncover patterns? Do we have to go back and read through the whole year of journaling prompts, or what do
Mhm.
you do to truly uncover those patterns and gain that greater self-awareness?
Absolutely. I love that. So, what I say when I talk about Dive Thru is that ultimately is what sits at our mission and the end result of the Dive Thru app and the Dive Thru method that's, again, rooted in journaling therapy. So, the biggest way to transform your journaling entry is to write, maybe following a prompt or just free flowing, whatever that looks like and feels best for you. So, let's say that you wrote about a fight with your partner and you wrote, how do I feel about this fight? So you write, however long feels best for you. The next step there can be two next steps. So the next step can be rereading what you wrote. And that is really what I think separates a lot of the applications of journaling, is this practice of rereading to really notice any insights that came through, any themes in your answer, and then as summarizing that to yourself. Okay, so now that I read what I journaled, I realized this is really what it was about. Really kind of giving yourself that 2 to 3 sentence summary of your journaling session. And then that's where you can then take the next step of, okay, now that I got the thoughts and the emotions down on this particular thing I'm journaling about, what is this asking me to focus on? What is this truly about? Where is the lesson in this? And where do I go from here? So really beginning to first let yourself freely journal in that moment about your feelings and thoughts, rather than just trying to immediately jump into the solution, because you have to take the time to acknowledge how you feel before you can work towards a resolution of that. So feel that, reflect by reading what you wrote, and then continue the exercise, if you have the time, in prompting yourself further of trying to step out of the situation and find the insight or find the lesson within that. So that's really kind of the three-part approach that you can take to really have more of self-awareness come into your journaling practice as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how often do you recommend that people journal? Is it an everyday habit, a once a week habit? What do you think?
hmm So there is a study that says if you journal for three times a week for 20 minutes, that's when you can really reap the whole list of benefits of journaling. Through Dive Thru, and my own belief is that any time spent journaling is enough time spent journaling. Ideally, in my perfect world, I would love for people to journal in the morning, journal at night, and then journal throughout the day. That's what I personally do. But again, for me, it's really become a part of my life whenever I'm having unclarity, when I'm preparing for a call or whatever that looks like. That's what journaling can be too, of just like making sure that you have everything you need to be ready. So yeah, the long-winded answer to that is journal when works best for you. I would love for you to do it every day, but any time spent journaling will really help you reap those benefits.
Hmm. And I guess my next question is, how do we develop a habit? Because I think a lot of times people know what they need, right? People know that it's important to exercise daily, or it is important to get 8 hours of sleep, or to journal. But sometimes when the time comes for execution, we tend to not follow through, even
Mhm.
greatly benefit from it. So, do you have any tips or suggestions on how we can truly start incorporating this into our daily routine, and how do we develop that habit of journaling?
Absolutely. I feel that for all of humans, the idea of habit formation is very challenging. So if people are struggling with that, they so aren't alone in that experience. So when I really think about a habit, I think the best place to start is to really understand your intention behind the habit that you're wanting to form. So whether it be exercising or journaling or something else, why is it that you want to start that? Why is that important to you? Why is this new habit important to you? And really uncovering first the motivations that you have. Because if your motivations are really coming from this place of, well, if I finally do this, then I'll be whole, or I'll be like just more of a like more worthy or something like that. Often we see in exercise, those motivations are actually coming from a place of lack. I always invite people to really step back and reevaluate that to ensure that your motivations are coming from a healthy and excited place. So I always like to give that kind of a pre-ramble before my ramble about habits. But then when it comes to the habit formation, they always say like start small and do a little action. Maybe start by doing it once a week where you have it in your calendar, or maybe do it when something really comes up, and from there building on, like taking the time to recognize the benefits in your life. So say you had a really great journaling session, after the fact ask yourself how it made you feel, and then maybe have like a little note or a reminder set for yourself being like, the last time you journaled you felt way better, just as like kind of little prompts for yourself to start that habit. I do believe personally with journaling there is a time that you reach where it becomes second nature, and I think that's with everything. But for me with journaling these days, like it's such a regular part of my life that it's not really a choice anymore. It's just kind of this automated system, and anyone can get there. Within the Dive Thru app in particular, we do have notifications for you to remind you to come back and journal, and we also have those prompts and different kind of goals. So you can do journaling exercises over 14 days. We have a jumpstart program to ease you into that. So really, whether it be our app or setting reminders for yourself on your phone, scheduling it into your calendar, just setting yourself up for success that looks differently for everyone. So really navigating in that in a way that feels best for yourself. And also just keep in mind, don't beat yourself up if you miss one, if you miss two, if you miss one for a month. That's kind of life. And approach these new habits from a place of excitement and what's best for you, opposed to, well, you're wrong or you're bad if you don't achieve them. And I think when you have that shift in mindset, making the habit and sticking to the habit can actually be a lot easier for you.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, myself included, think of journaling. When I first wanted to start journaling, to me, it was like this one huge thing, this one huge task. And that's intimidating.
hmm
And, I think a lot of people are really good at finding arguments against doing something. when they feel overwhelmed. So whether, perfectionists might lose their train of thought because they're so worried about the misspellings and
Mm-hmm.
or somebody is doesn't really want to start journaling because they're afraid that somebody will find it and read it, or there are other things, there's life that gets in a way, and there are, distractions, and again, just not being able to build a habit straight away. What do you say to those people? How do you overcome those, like, most widespread hurdles?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think when we view journaling as this thing that's going to be like all life changing, and then we have to do it this particular way, and we have these expectations, that I think sets every person up for failure with things when we kind of make it so much bigger than it needs to be. A really great place to start, in particular with journaling, is simply ask yourself how you're feeling. And that, I say that simply, that can be a really hard question to answer, but it can be a really great place to start. And maybe one day, the first day, you say, well, today I'm feeling a little anxious. And then the next day, you maybe elaborate a little bit more. And then you are at 2 sentences and 3 sentences and build upon that. As a perfectionist, I so understand the fear that's associated with maybe making spelling errors. What you have to understand is that the difference between journaling and perhaps writing something that, well, like writing an essay or something like that, is that no one's reading this and no one's judging you. And that really a great place to start would be working on your own self-judgment, and to really do the best that you can to let that go. Spelling errors spelling errors happen. Cross a word out once in a while, whatever, have it spelt wrong. It doesn't mean anything. It's not implying anything, because the best way to allow the impacts of journaling to truly hit you is to be in like this uncensored flowing state where you're just writing anything and everything that comes to your mind, and letting go of the need to moderate that, and letting your journal be a safe space for you. And that takes time. And like I mentioned, to me, I think the best and greatest gift of journaling is this tool that lets you rebuild your trust within yourself. And at first, your journal might feel a little robotic. It might feel a little guarded or moderated or confined within what you think you should be saying, but still stick at it. And each time, ask yourself to be a little more honest with yourself. And that is definitely harder done than said, but it will really help you truly build that relationship and truly use your journal in a way that's useful and impactful for your time. So that's really, when I think of different ways to kind of overcome those hurdles, is break it down, make it simple. And when it comes to privacy, what I love about the Dive Thru app in particular is that we actually do have you journal pen to paper and then summarize into the app to really keep those separate, and obviously would never access your information anyways. But when it comes to your own privacy within your journal, keep it on your person at all times, if that makes sense. Like if it can fit in your handbag or something like that, if you have a small one, or keep it somewhere confined in your personal space. I'm terrible. I leave mine out with pages open, and I'm like, I guess my husband could read this, but I guess he'd learn a lot what's going on in my mind, which might be a little scary. But really doing what works best for you, and keeping it, in a safe space or with you, so that limits the opportunity for others to read it. That's really what I think when I think of privacy.
And I think you touched on an interesting point, which kind of caught my attention with the Dive Thru app, is that you have people write in hand. Can you tell a little bit about why this decision was made, and whether there's different level of effectiveness if you write with hand or if you write in an app, which a lot of apps these days do, is that you just write
Mm-hmm.
right in the app. So can you speak a little bit to the importance of handwriting?
Absolutely. So this is my favorite question and something that I like geek out about. So journaling therapy says that writing pen to paper is best for you. There is tons of research that says how writing things down for a wide range of reasons is better for you. There were studies of how students that wrote, like school students that wrote their notes down opposed to writing in a laptop had better retention. There's a lot of these benefits associated with writing pen to paper, and it's the cathartic aspect of just getting things out. And as much as technology is cool and we're a cool company with a cool app, we exist in to serve you in the best way possible, and the research indicates that that's pen to paper. And when we think about it in terms of how long we've been around on this earth, writing pen to paper versus writing into an app, like we haven't fully come into that place yet. So the benefits far outweigh than bringing it into the journal itself. And we really want to respect the therapy aspect of it. That's one of the biggest points when we talk with our mental health professionals and other mental health professionals that recommend it in their practice, that for them has been a really impactful decision made by us. And it's something that I have to explain time over time again because it is unconventional, especially in the app space. But we have been writing things on walls and on paper and for a very, very long time. And the benefits associated with that far outweigh the convenience of simply writing into the app.
Absolutely, I agree. I find that it's easier for myself to write something down on a piece of paper, even though I have tons of little pieces of papers everywhere lying around. But I think that maybe that's that connection between, your brain and your hand and your eye all working together, I guess, in a physical
Mm-hmm.
perspective is what makes it really, really stick. I think for me, it's almost like it's much more meaningful. It has much more weight, even though
Mm-hmm.
using our phones all day, every day.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And they say that even just the act of writing is very meditative for your brain, just like where your brain kind of goes when you're writing. And I think what you mentioned about it feels more real, and it feels more tangible and accessible, and that like you can like hold that in your hand and like see it on that paper versus like putting it into somewhere and it kind of getting sent off. In the app itself, we do have, like I mentioned, the importance of reading what you wrote, then summarizing. We have you summarize into the app so that that summary, truly the takeaways that you've had from the session, can be reflected on so that you can say like, oh, hey, when I did this session, this is what I took away from it. So that summary is the way we like consider ourselves a hybrid, because the summary is what you can reflect back on. And then if you really want to dive into your journal entries from the past, you still have that in your physical journal.
I really like that. And I wanted to ask about another, special feature of Dive Thru that kind of differentiates it from other similar apps is that you have this whole method, 5-step process where you combine guided breathing, journaling, and self-reflection. Could you speak
Mm-hmm.
a bit about the importance of each one separately and then how it all fits together so you can really reap the benefits of journaling?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So, really, when I started my journaling practice, before I would journal, I was in such a fragile emotional state that I really needed the time to get into my feelings, if that makes sense. I was so used to operating so outside of myself that I didn't have this relationship with myself to immediately be able to start to journal. So, what I did was before journaling, I would take time to breathe, and I would take time to just count my breath to feel really in that moment. And then I would invite awareness in of like the topic that I wanted to journal. So I was preparing my mind, as we now call it. So within the app, like you mentioned, we have the 5 different steps. So the first step is the guided introspection. So the reason we call it introspection instead of maybe meditation or even over like just like a plain breathing exercise is because as much as we guide you to like think about your breath and to take that moment, the biggest difference is that we then invite you to think about the topic you're about to journal. And that preparation or preparing your mind can really help you just first kind of like clarify what it is you're wanting to journal about, and what like you're being drawn or asked to think about. Because when you maybe try to journal pen to paper, so much can come up at once that it can be overwhelming to truly stick with it. So this introspection piece, first we get you to really kind of let go of your day and let go of whatever else you were doing to think about your breath, but then to bring your mind and your thoughts into what you're about to journal about. So the second step is our handwritten journaling. So we offer up a journaling prompt. So say that you were doing so we have something called a quick dive and a deep dive. So a quick dive is one journaling prompt. A deep dive is 14 journaling prompts. So you can do that over a series of 14 days or quicker. So let's say that you're doing one about mad at your partner. So the prompt that we would then offer up within the app would be like, what do you think this fight is really about? So that's when you would be able to journal in your physical journal. We have the timer on, but you can continue that for any length of time. And then we actually get you to put your pen down, and we get you to go through a reflective introspection. So this is the second stage of another breathing exercise that really helps you now notice how you're feeling. Because when you're journaling, you are writing in past tense, but you are, and like maybe you're recalling events previously, or you're reflecting backward, but your body is physically reacting in the moment. So the reflective short journaling or short breathing exercise after the fact really helps you just be like, okay, so now that I journaled, how do I physically feel? So really, again, having that intricate relationship with yourself, with your mind through the journaling, and then your body through the breathing and the introspection. From there, the fourth step is reading what you wrote. Again, really taking in, seeing any highlights, seeing any themes or lessons that are poking up at you. And then you turn to the app to finalize it. So the fifth step is summarizing what you journaled. So what did you dive through? What were the lessons? And you can put that within the app in 2 to 3 sentences that you can like go back and reflect on at any time. So really this comprehensive, full approach. So we're not just offering app journaling prompts, and that's why we call it guided, because we have the prompt, but because we also have the introspection exercises that really help you take advantage of that time. And then I know that might sound like it could be a really long process, but within the app itself, you can opt to do a session, or as we call a dive, in 6, 12, or 18 minutes. So really condensing to a schedule that works best for you, and you can always go longer too if you need.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I found this to be really useful because when I sit down and I cannot think where to start, giving myself like 5 minutes, and I sit here for 5 minutes, and maybe I don't write anything down, but I've just spent 5 minutes on it, and so I feel better about myself, even if I haven't accomplished anything. But I think as soon as I just make myself sit there and think about it, then I often find that 5 minutes is not enough, and 10 minutes is not even enough. Setting that timer and just being easy on yourself, right? I'll just sit here for 5 minutes, and if nothing comes out of this is fine. I've tried, right?
Absolutely.
And one, I think, of the common misconceptions about journaling is that journaling is about the past, about the things that happened either to you or events that have already passed. And a lot of times it's thought about that you need journaling when you're going through like rough patches in your life, right? So you want to get out those emotions, or you want to get that anger out. But journaling doesn't have to be about the past, and it doesn't have to be negative. One of the things I really like lately is gratitude journaling, and I found that it really helped me a lot. Can you speak a little bit about gratitude journaling and what effect does gratitude have on our brains?
Absolutely. So I love that I think touch really on a big misconception is that it's either like reflecting on the past or like recording an event or something like that. But journaling as an overall self-development tool can be a really helpful and impactful tool to have in your toolbox in terms of making changes in your life in a proactive and exciting way, planning for the future, or using it for gratitude. So gratitude journaling and just even the act of gratitude has been something I feel like that's been talked about for a number of years. And it really just puts you in this place of appreciation and invites in all of the good chemicals and hormones that come along with that recognizing something that you're appreciative for, big or small. And the act of putting yourself in that state of gratitude just is so impactful for your body. I think it makes a lot of sense. Just focusing on something positive and recognizing what you have really can be uplifting to your whole body. So gratitude journaling, writing things, what are you grateful for, writing 3 things down in the morning or 3 things down at night, whatever that looks like for you, is definitely something that's a really great entry point into journaling as well. Because sometimes when we think about journaling about these heavy and stressful and anxiety-ridden events or thoughts or anything like that, that can be really overwhelming. But journaling doesn't have to just be that. It can be as simple as recording things you're grateful for, talking about your day from an appreciative lens. There's journaling exercise that we have within the app that takes gratitude a little step further, in that it has you rewrite your day from a lens of appreciation. So say if you were someone that you had a shitty day, but you still really want to turn that day around, can you write about your day from a viewpoint of appreciation? So rewriting something that might not have gone the way that you wanted and bringing gratitude into the mix is just such a feel-good way to uplift just your whole self. So it's so, so powerful.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. So I guess my last question for you is, what is your favorite journaling prompt? What do you enjoy the most?
So I really love a back and forth style of journaling. So what we consider in the app is called dialogue. And I have a dialogue with different parts of myself. Mostly I call it my internal critic. So using journaling as a way to ask my internal critic of well, why do you feel this way? Why do you keep on speaking to me in this way? And it might seem a little weird to journal back and forth from your perspective to the perspective of your fear, or the perspective of your partner, or in this case, your internal critic. But for me, that's the best way that I can kind of think through things for myself. I have kind of I guess you could say the devil on one side and the angel on the other, but really for me, it's I struggle with negative self-talk. So I really use my journal as a space to confront those thoughts, to better understand them, to understand their emotions and their intentions. Because I believe that cynic within us has good intentions. They're trying to protect you in some way. And I've really learned to show myself more compassion and understanding when using journaling in that dialogue type setting.
I love it. I've actually never heard of it, but that sounds really cool. I would encourage everyone to try it at least once, because I think there are multiples of us living inside one person, right? There's the fearful one, the critical one, the the scared one, right? Or the one with the guilt. I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for this conversation. Hopefully, a lot of people find their way to journaling to improve their mood, to improve their health, and, just to live a better, more aware life.
I so agree. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Anyone listening, please know that you have the capabilities within yourself to start journaling now, and it can be in a small or big way, whatever you want that to look like. If you are interested in checking out the app, it's Dive Thru on the App Store and Google Play, or you can send me a message at Sophie Gray across the internet, and I would love to answer any questions that you have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And you will find all of the links mentioned in this episode in the episode notes below. So definitely check out the app. It's really cool and it's really good looking. And again, Sophie, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and sharing your experience with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you've learned a lot of new strategies. Be sure to check out the notes below this episode for additional resources and tools mentioned in today's show. I would love to keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts and takeaways with me on social media channels wherever you are. And do not forget to tag me. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, and I will see you on the next episode. If this podcast has helped you even a little bit, please leave a review and subscribe so that we can help spread the message together.